Okay, so the topic is cost of production, and this is A2 Economics, Microeconomics, unit number 7. Cost of production, first of all, like we define the term production, and production is the process of making goods and services, or it is a process of converting raw material into final or semi-final goods, right? So during the production process, we produce goods and services, we make goods and services, and we convert raw material into final products. And then we have like the term cost, and cost refers to all types of expenses that are incurred to produce goods and services. Like whenever we produce goods and services, we have to pay multiple costs, right? And if we add all those costs, we will get total cost for the firm, right? And that is cost of production. Another important thing that you must know is short-run costs. And short-run costs include like fixed cost, average fixed cost, variable cost, average variable cost, total cost, and average total cost. The last one is marginal cost. So we will look into all these costs one by one. And before doing that, we can just define what short run is. Short run is definitely a period of time in which at least one factor of production is fixed. In business studies and accounting and many other subjects, short run is basically the time period, number of years. But in economics, we don't consider number of years in the short run or long run. Rather, we look into the factors of production. If there is any one factor of production which is kept constant and cannot be changed, then such time is known as short run period of time. And in the short run, we have to pay fixed cost, and fixed cost, as the name suggests, is the cost that we have to pay even if we produce nothing, right? And the examples of fixed costs include like rent of the building. When you get a building on rental basis, then you have to pay rent, and rent is fixed cost for you. And similarly, like we have another cost, that is cost of insurance. It is also fixed by nature, right? If you have insured your property, your vehicles, your business, your assets, then it means you have to pay insurance cost to the company, irrespective of the goods you produce, right? If you produce more or less, or we produce nothing, then again we have to pay that cost. That is called fixed cost. And the next thing is that we basically count the cost into the fixed cost. One was like rent of the building, the second one was insurance, and the third one is interest on loan. Like when we get loan from the financial institutions, we have to pay interest on that. And if we like this, so we have quantity on X, this is quantity produced, and this is origin point. On Y we have cost. Its graph will be a horizontal straight line like this. So let's say we have to pay $100 fixed cost. So whatever output we produce, let's say if we produce 100 units, if we produce 10 units, we have to pay $100 good or service. Then again, we have to pay the same cost, that is $100. So fixed cost is the cost that does not change with the change in output. And the other cost that we have is average fixed cost. Average fixed cost is the ratio between fixed cost and quantity produced, and it is calculated as average fixed cost is equal to fixed cost divided by quantity. And keep in mind, if fixed cost is constant, numerator will remain the same. If we increase output, that is quantity, then denominator will keep increasing, and as a result, overall outcome will be decreasing. Like if we divide fixed cost with greater output, then average fixed cost will definitely decrease. So keep in mind, whenever we increase output, average fixed cost always falls. So average fixed cost always decreases with the rise in output, right? If we increase quantity, then average fixed cost will decrease. And if we make the graph for average fixed cost, then it will look like this. Like we have cost on y-axis and we have quantity or output produced on x-axis. So this is origin point, quantity on x, and on y we have cost. And average fixed cost looks like this. So average fixed cost decreases with the rise in output. Let's say initially average at output like 10, for example, average fixed cost was also 10. If we increase output from 10 to 12, average fixed cost may decrease to 8, and so on and so forth. And the next cost we have is variable cost, and variable cost, as the name suggests, is the cost that changes or varies with the change in output. Like if we increase output, variable cost will also increase, and if we decrease output, variable cost will also decrease. And sometimes we produce nothing, then variable cost will also be zero. If output is zero, variable cost will also be zero. So what can be the example of variable cost? Right? Keep in mind these costs keep changing with the change in output. So what kind of costs keep changing when we increase or decrease our output? Right? So if we produce more goods and services, we require more raw material. So the cost of raw material is variable cost, right? For example, if you are a furniture maker and if you want to produce more chairs and tables, then you will require more timber. So more wood is required. So it means the cost of raw material will increase. So that is variable cost. And similarly, like wages of non-permanent staff, if you need more workers to produce a certain product, then definitely you will have to pay um, some cost that in the form of wages, right? If you need to produce more, then you will have to hire more workers, so cost of wages will increase. And this is also variable cost, right? Sometimes there are like salaries of the fixed or permanent kind of staff, then that kind of salary will be the fixed cost, not the variable cost. But wages, if they keep changing with the change in output, then it will be variable cost. And another cost that may include maybe included in variable cost can be like electricity bills. If you use more electricity, then you will have to pay more cost, right? So now if we try to make the diagram for variable cost, then it will look like this. So variable cost will look like this. So we have quantity again on X, and this is origin point, and on X we have quantity produced, and on Y we have cost. This is cost, and this is variable cost, right? If output is zero, quantity produced is zero, variable cost is also zero. And if we increase output, let's say if initially output is Q1, variable cost will be C1, and if we increase output to Q2, then variable cost will increase to C2, right? So there is direct or positive link between variable cost and output produced. And keep in mind, variable cost can be positively sloped straight line, or sometimes it is curved as well, like this. For example, we again draw the diagram. So this is origin. And on X, we have quantity produced, and on Y, we have cost. So variable cost always starts from origin point, keep in mind. However, it can be straight line or curved like this. So this is curved variable cost. So what is the reason for being curved? Keep in mind when the rate of increase in variable cost is constant, then variable cost curve will be a horizontal, will be a positively straight line, positively sloped straight line. But if the cost is increasing with different rates, then it will be curved, right? So variable cost is increasing, but the rate of increase is different at different levels of output. And now moving to the average variable cost. Average variable cost is the ratio between variable cost and quantity produced. And if we produce more, average variable cost initially falls, and eventually after a certain point, it reaches the lowest point, for example. And after that, if we further increase output, then average variable cost will increase. So AVC curve looks like this. This is also known as U-shaped AVC. Although it is not exactly U-shaped, but it is like similar to that kind of shape. So average variable cost initially falls with the rise in output, reaches the lowest point when output is Q. And after that, if we further increase output, then average variable cost will start rising. Okay, so then we have like total cost. Total cost, as the name suggests, is the sum of fixed and variable cost. So total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost, right? So again, if we draw the fixed cost curve, it looks like this. So this is horizontal straight line. If we draw variable cost, then it is positively sloped like this. And when we add these two cost curves, fixed and variable cost, if we combine these two things, then what will happen is we have to add variable cost to the fixed cost, then it means new graph will look like this. So this is total cost. So total cost curve starts above origin point and it is positively sloped like this. And again, we have cost on Y, and this is origin point. On X, we have quantity produced. Total cost will always start from like above the origin point from the fixed cost curve, point of fixed cost. And however, it can be like straight line or it can be curved as well. For example, if the rate of rise in total cost is constant, then total cost will be straight line. And if it is like changing the rate of increase in total cost is changing with the change in output, then total cost will be curved like this. So if we have cost on y and this is origin point on x, we have again quantity. And the next cost is like average cost, or we call it average total cost. And average cost is total cost divided by quantity. So it is per unit cost as well. It is known as per unit cost. And total cost, as we know that total cost is the sum of fixed cost and variable cost. So we can write it like this as well. So fixed cost plus variable cost over quantity. And again, mathematically, like we can write it as fixed cost over quantity plus variable cost over quantity. And again, we have already studied that whenever we divide fixed cost by quantity, then it becomes average fixed cost. And when we divide variable cost by quantity, then it becomes average variable cost. So finally, average cost can be equal to average fixed cost plus average variable cost. So this is the final shape of average cost mathematically. And now if we draw the diagram of average cost, then it will be exactly same as average variable cost. So it is U-shaped like this. So this is average cost, or we also call it average total cost. So on X, again, we have quantity. This is origin point, and on Y, we have cost. So at this point, average cost is the lowest. When output is Q, average cost is lowest or minimum. Before that, it is falling, and after that, again, it is rising. And the last thing for today's class is marginal cost, right? So marginal cost is the additional cost of producing one additional unit of output. Whenever we increase output, then it leads to increase in some cost. So that is change in total cost. Delta TC is change in total cost divided by change in quantity. So whenever delta sign shows change in economics, so whenever we increase output by 1 unit, then it will lead to increase in total cost. So whatever increase happens is the change in total cost, and it is known as marginal cost. Marginal cost is the cost of producing one additional unit of output. And if you draw the graph of marginal cost, then it looks like a hockey stick, for example, like this. So again, we have quantity on X and we have cost on Y, and marginal cost curve is like a hockey stick. Okay, so how to calculate marginal cost? We can look into one example, simple example as well. For example, if we were initially producing some quantity and then we were paying some cost, and then we can find out marginal cost. Let's say we were initially producing 100 units and total cost was, let's say, 1000. And now we decided to produce one additional unit of output. So total quantity produced is now 101. And total cost, let's say, increases from 1000 to 1200. Then what will be the marginal cost? If we look into the change in total cost, it has changed from 1000 to 1200. So this is a change of like 200, and the change in quantity produced is from 100 to 101. So there is 1 unit change in one quantity. So 200 over 1 is equal to 200. So this is how you can calculate marginal cost. And finally, this is like we are done with this topic. So these were like multiple costs that we have to pay as a business in the shortened period of time. So in the next lesson, I'll explain you the long run cost curve, and we will also look into the reasons why average cost curve is U-shaped like this in the short run and as well as in the long. So see you in the next class, inshallah, soon. Allah Hafiz.